Contract periods and time frames within those contracts when you're buying and selling a home. This is a part of the home buying, selling process that I feel is often taken lightly. In many cases, much of the responsibility falls on the buyer side, but there are some contract period time frames that the seller is also responsible for. I'm going to give an example of this. I have a client that I have been working with, and so all of my clients, when we go under contracts, you probably can't see this, when we go under contracts, I give them a little text message with all of the important contract dates on there. Now, I didn't always do that as a real estate agent. As technology advances and different things, I've learned that this is a helpful tool for clients to be able to reference and go back to. But even with that, a lot of times people take those time frames a little too lightly or play it too close. And so I had a client that we've been working with trying to find a home. We finally secured a property for them. So in the contract, there's going to be deadlines for turning in the earnest money, deadlines for having a home inspection, making loan application, and ordering the appraisal, and so on. And so if we miss those deadlines, the seller can then either decide to back out of the deal, or it causes a little disruption that's really unneeded. The most important one I would say is the home inspection period time frame that you never want to miss, because if you miss that usually a 7 to 10 day inspection time frame and you don't have your inspection, you can most likely still have your inspection, but then we can't go back to the seller and ask for repairs because we missed the deadline. So I have a client, they worked a lot, so it was hard for them to kind of sit down on the phone and kind of handle everything. And so what happened was we got very close to the end of this, and now he's whereas a home inspector may have a lot of availability, when you shorten that window, it's very hard to find someone that could come out within 24 hours to do a home inspection within the time frame that you needed. The other reason why for home inspection, why it's so important, is because we don't want to get to the end of this thing and there's a hiccup and you didn't find out about something last minute, or like I was saying, the home inspectors are busy and you wait until the very last day or two before scheduling this thing. Once you have the home inspection done, the home inspector usually takes, maybe same day or within 24 hours of getting that report back. And then we need to go back to the seller and ask them for repairs potentially, and kind of reopen for negotiation. The other thing too, as far as like the earnest money, we have to have that money in place with whomever is going to be holding the earnest money. So all of these time frames are very important, and as your real estate agent, allowing me to be able to do my job and having you in a winning position versus having to now fight and beg and plead to get things back on track with the transaction. So this is a big part of the home buying and selling process. I definitely think that you want to understand where things are at, time frames, due dates within the contract, and you want to pay close attention to that. Now on the seller side, there's not as many time frames in the contract, but there are a couple things that I often see happen on the seller side. One of those things, well, two things. The first thing is usually a close for anyone that has a loan is going to take about 30 days on average to close. The first thing the title company is going to do is send out a seller packet requesting information so they can start to do their due diligence on the property, make sure there's no liens and different things. So I find, because the paperwork from the title company, it's not hard, it's just a little tedious. Sellers tend to drag their feet oftentimes when it comes to that with providing information. And so because of that, it causes delays in the searches. And then once the title company finds some information or send that information back, and they need additional information from from the seller, they often will take their time getting the information back to the title company, again slowing down the process because everything is moving on all cylinders. Everyone's doing their part, and if the seller's not providing the information, it could cause delay. But the biggest area where I see sellers often drag their feet is when it comes to the requested repairs. So like I was mentioning on the buyer side, where they had that inspection period, usually about 7 to 10 days from acceptance of the contract. Once they get to the inspection is complete, they may request for seller to make repairs. Typically we look for safety, health concerns, or in different things like that. If there's some bigger items, sometimes we ask the seller to make those repairs. Whatever it is, buyer and seller negotiate whatever those repair requests are. Seller agrees to make the repairs. And so what happens, the seller is, we're trying to get those repairs done as quickly as possible. For all of my clients, we're going to do a final walkthrough of the property prior to closing. And during that walkthrough, we're going to double check to make sure that work was done. I say double check because we also like to request receipts for the work that was requested to be done in the home as well. So when we get there for our final walkthrough. In many cases, I find that sellers kind of wait into the last minute, the week of closing, before completing all of the requested repairs. I'm not sure if it was just a hard time finding and securing a contractor, but when that happens, it kind of pushes everyone to the limit of, okay, is it done, not done? You know, it kind of leaves this open or gray area up until the close because these items have not been done. So if when you receive the information, I definitely suggest that you kind of jump on that as quickly as possible, because if the work is not done at that point, the buyer could potentially want to not back out, but it could stall the closing because they couldn't verify that the work was done, or it's still not done, you know. And then you have a seller that you're asking at some point, hey, can you, or the seller's asking, can we just put the money in escrow? So contract periods are very important, especially if you want to close as of the date, the contract date, as quickly as possible. So something to definitely look at and keep in mind, whether you're a buyer or seller, keeping up with those contract dates and working with a realtor that communicates those dates to you and helps set the expectation. Hope this helps. Have a good day, guys.